The soldier opened his eyes slowly, the sound of a strange hum filling his ears. He was lying on a bed that was not his, the walls around him smooth and glowing with soft blue light. He sat up, confused, his body still weak from the last battle he remembered. The last thing he saw was fire, smoke, and the endless chaos of war. And now he was here alive but not alone. Beside him, resting on the same bed, was a girl unlike any he had ever seen. Her skin had a faint shimmer, pale but glowing under the ship's strange lights. Her hair fell like rivers of gold across the pink blanket they shared. Her eyes opened slowly, green and bright like living emeralds, and when she looked at him, she smiled gently. The soldier pulled the blanket tighter around himself, his heart racing. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The girl tilted her head, as if trying to understand, then spoke in broken human words. "Safe ship? No danger," she whispered softly, her accent strange, yet her voice warm. But what unsettled him more was not the ship, not the lights, not even the silence of the place. It was her lying so close, her body uncovered except for the blanket. He turned his face away quickly, embarrassed, his soldiers' discipline fighting against the strange situation. Why are you like this?" he asked nervously, his eyes fixed on the wall instead of her. The girl only laughed lightly, a sound soft and musical. She leaned closer, resting her chin on her folded arms, her gaze never leaving him. "It's cultural," she said slowly, choosing each word with care. Her smile carried no shame, no hesitation, only a calm certainty, as if everything was completely normal. The soldier frowned, the word echoing in his mind. Cultural, what did that mean here, among aliens, among beings whose ways he did not understand? He remembered the stories his squad used to share around the fire, tales of alien rituals and strange traditions. But none of those stories prepared him for this, for a girl who claimed that lying naked beside him was simply her culture. He shifted away slightly, creating distance between them, but she moved closer again, her emerald eyes watching him, not with desire, but with something deeper. It was as if she was studying him, reading the fear in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. And somehow, her calm presence made his heart slow, his breathing steady. He closed his eyes, trying to make sense of it. The ship hummed softly, the lights pulsed with life, and the faint smell of something sweet filled the air. He opened them again, and she was still watching him, her smile quiet but unshaken. "Why me?" he asked, his voice breaking the silence. She tilted her head again, her hair sliding across her shoulders like silk. "Chosen," she said softly, almost like a secret. "You chosen." The soldier felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to ask more, but his throat was dry, his mind clouded with questions. What did it mean to be chosen? What culture demanded this closeness, and why did it have to be him? But before he could speak again, the ship shifted, a faint vibration moving through the walls. The girl sat up slightly, her glowing skin catching the light of the ship's windows. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, rivers of light against a sea of black. For a moment, the soldier forgot his questions, forgot his confusion, and simply stared at the sight. It was beautiful, almost unreal, like a painting made of light and silence. Then he felt her hand rest lightly on his arm. Her touch was warm, steady, and strangely comforting. He turned to her, ready to pull away, but stopped when he saw the look in her eyes. There was no mockery, no trick, no hidden game, only a quiet certainty. "Safe," she whispered again, her lips curving into a smile. Her voice was gentle, yet strong, carrying a weight he could not explain. The soldier exhaled slowly, his shoulders easing, the tightness in his chest fading. For the first time since the war began, he felt something he thought he had lost. Not safety, not peace, but trust, fragile and unexpected, yet real. Still, the question would not leave his mind. Why was she here? Why was she always beside him? And why did she believe it was cultural? As he lay back down, his thoughts heavy, but his body too tired to resist. The girl moved closer again, her presence steady like a shield, and before sleep claimed him once more. He heard her whisper a final word. Together, the soldier woke again to the same soft hum of the alien ship. This time he was not startled, though his mind still carried the same questions from the night before. The alien girl was there, as always, her body close, her green eyes watching him as if he were the only thing that mattered in the universe. When he tried to move away, she moved with him, her movements calm and graceful, like water following the tide. He sat up, rubbing his face with both hands, his voice low and tired. "You can't keep doing this," he muttered, not sure if she even understood the words. But she tilted her head again, that same innocent smile playing on her lips. "It's cultural," she said softly, the same words as before, but now she added more, her voice struggling to shape human sounds. "Trust closeness, life." The soldier frowned, his mind spinning. It was not only about comfort or protection. It was something older, something rooted in her people's way of living. She sat up beside him, her golden hair falling across her glowing shoulders. Then she drew a small shape in the air with her finger, a circle overlapping another circle. "Bond," she whispered, "you and me bond." He stared at the drawing, confused but curious. Her words came slow, broken, yet filled with meaning. She explained that in her culture, to sleep beside someone was to share life, to share breath, to prove there was no fear. It was not romance in the human sense, not passion, but a survival oath. Her people believed that by resting in such closeness, the spirits of two became stronger and danger would be pushed away. The soldier shook his head, his soldier's mind trained for tactics, not rituals. "But why me?" he asked again. "Why not someone else?" The alien girl's eyes softened, and she reached for his hand, placing it gently over her chest where her heartbeat pulsed strong and steady. "Because chosen," she whispered again, "your heart strong, your spirit not broken." Her words sent a strange feeling through him. Not pride, not comfort, but something heavier. He thought of the battlefield, of the soldiers who had fallen beside him, of the screams and the fire. He did not feel strong. He did not feel chosen. Yet here she was, seeing something in him that he could not see in himself. The room fell silent, but it was not an empty silence. It was heavy with meaning, with questions he did not yet have answers to. The ship shifted again, the faint hum growing louder, as if they were moving faster through the stars. The soldier glanced toward the window, watching light streak past, endless and cold. Yet beside him, her warmth was constant, like a shield against the void. Later, as he tried to stand and explore, he noticed the ship was not empty. Other aliens walked the halls, their shapes taller and more slender, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. They watched him with quiet curiosity, but when their gazes fell upon the girl at his side, they lowered their heads slightly. It was a gesture of respect, maybe even fear. The soldier caught the moment and frowned, wondering what it meant. Who was she to them, and why did they bow to her presence? He asked her quietly when they returned to the room, but she only smiled again, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "Cultural," she whispered, as if the word was enough to explain everything. But he knew it was not anymore. That night, when he lay down again, she slipped into the same place beside him, her body close, her breathing calm. He wanted to resist, to push her away, but exhaustion chained him, and something in her presence made his heart slow. Her warmth was not only physical, it was deeper, reaching into the parts of him scarred by war. Her steady heartbeat became a rhythm that silenced the noise of his memories. For the first time in years, his nightmares did not return. Before sleep claimed him, he heard her whisper one more time, her words broken but clear, "Not alone, never alone." The soldier closed his eyes, and though his mind still wrestled with confusion, a part of him, a quiet hidden part, began to wonder if this strange culture was not a burden at all, but a gift, one he did not yet understand. The soldier woke again, his body rested, but his mind restless. Each time he opened his eyes on this alien ship, the same truth greeted him. The alien girl was beside him, always close, always watching with that calm green gaze. He tried to tell himself it was only survival, only culture as she called it, yet he felt the weight of something more pressing on his chest. He pushed himself to his feet, determined to take a walk through the ship's halls. The girl followed without hesitation, her bare feet silent on the smooth metallic floor. Every corner of the vessel glowed with soft light, curves and patterns that looked alive rather than built. Other aliens passed, their tall forms graceful, their glowing eyes following him for a moment before drifting away. It was clear they knew him, or at least knew what he was to her, and that unsettled him even more. He finally stopped in one corridor, pressing a hand against the cool wall. "Why me?" he muttered under his breath, his thoughts swirling. The girl paused beside him, her golden hair catching the faint light. She tilted her head again, that same patient smile he was coming to know too well. "You've strong heart," she whispered. "You know fear." He laughed bitterly, the sound rough in his throat. "No fear," he repeated, shaking his head. "I was afraid every second out there." Images of the battlefield rose in his mind. Fire, blood, the cries of men he could not save. If she could see into him as she claimed, why could she not see the broken pieces? Why did she insist on calling him chosen when he felt like nothing more than a survivor clinging to luck? Her small hand rested on his wrist, her touch warm and steady. Her eyes locked on his, and for the first time he saw something different in her expression. Not innocence, not calm, but a quiet sadness. "Fear," she whispered, "is life, but you still stand." The words struck deeper than he expected. He pulled his arm free, pacing back down the corridor, his boots echoing softly. He wanted to believe her, but the weight of memory was heavy, and no smile, no alien culture could erase it. When they returned to their chamber, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the stars outside the window. They stretched forever, endless rivers of light against the black. It made him feel small, fragile, yet also strangely free. The girl sat beside him, close but silent, as if sensing he needed space. Her presence was still a comfort, though he would not admit it aloud. Night came, or what he believed to be night, for the ship had no day or sun, only the soft dimming of its lights. Again she lay beside him, her body warm against his, her breathing steady. He tried to resist, tried to hold the line of discipline, but exhaustion crept in like a thief. His eyes closed, and in his dreams, the battlefield returned. But this time when fire surrounded him, when shadows closed in, her hand was there, pulling him through the smoke, her voice whispering, "Not alone." He woke with a start, his chest heaving, sweat cold on his skin. Her arm was draped across him, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. He froze, unsure whether to move or let her be. But when he heard her soft breathing, calm and unshaken, the panic eased. Slowly, carefully, he let his body relax again, telling himself it was only for the night, only until he found a way back home. Yet a part of him, a part he could not silence, wondered if home was already shifting, if home was no longer a place, no longer a uniform or a battlefield, if home was the warmth of a girl who said her culture demanded she never leave his side. When he finally drifted back to sleep, her whisper came once again, this time clearer, almost as if she had practiced the words. Together, always together. And though he would not admit it even to himself, the thought of waking up alone no longer felt possible, nor did he want it to be. The soldier had begun to grow used to the rhythm of the alien ship. The constant hum in the walls, the faint glow of its lights, the quiet corridors where tall figures drifted like shadows. And of course, the alien girl who never left his side. But peace was never meant to last. Not for him. Not for a soldier who carried the war, still burning in his chest. One cycle, when the ship lights dimmed to their lowest, a deep alarm shook the air. It was not loud, but it vibrated through the walls, a low warning tone that made his heart pound. The girl's body stiffened at once, her green eyes widening. She grabbed his arm tightly and whispered a single word, sharp and urgent. Danger. Before he could ask what it meant, the ship shifted violently. The floor tilted, sending him against the wall, while she stayed steady, her movements like liquid, graceful and practiced. He stumbled to his feet, his soldier's instincts returning fast. "What's happening?" he demanded, though his words felt heavy in the air. She pressed a finger to his lips, silencing him, her eyes scanning the ceiling as if she could hear things he could not. The corridor outside filled with motion, alien figures rushing past with weapons glowing in their hands. For the first time, he saw fear on their faces, their glowing eyes darting nervously. Something was wrong. Something had pierced the calm of the endless journey through space. The girl pulled him back into the chamber, shutting the curved door with a wave of her hand. Her body pressed close against his, her voice low and trembling now. "Hunters," she whispered, "they come." The words struck a chord in him. He had heard it before, tales told in hushed voices about raiders who prowl the void. They were not just enemies. They were predators taking ships, taking lives, leaving only silence behind. And now they were here, chasing the vessel he was trapped on. The girl moved quickly, gathering strange objects from the walls, items that shifted shape as she touched them. She pressed one into his hands, a device that looked like both a blade and shield, glowing faintly at the edges. "Protect," she said firmly, her voice no longer soft but commanding. Her eyes locked with his, burning with a fire he had not seen before. This was not just a gentle companion. This was a warrior's bloodline stirring in her veins. He gripped the weapon tightly, though he had no idea how to use it. The old fear clawed at him, memories of battles lost, of screams echoing in the dark. But when he looked at her, standing tall despite her fragile form, something in him steadied. If she was ready to face the hunters, then so was he. The walls shook again, this time with the sound of impact. The ship groaned like a living creature wounded. From the window, he saw shadows darting across the stars, sleek ships with jagged edges, their weapons glowing with fire. The hunters had found them, and they were circling like wolves around prey. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered and dimmed, plunging them into shadow. The girl moved closer, her hand slipping into his, her touch firm, unyielding. Her lips brushed against his ear as she whispered, "Stay close, survive." The door hissed open before he could reply, a blast of cold air sweeping inside. Tall alien soldiers rushed in, their glowing weapons ready, their voices sharp with commands he could not understand. They gestured urgently, pointing down the hall, and the girl nodded, pulling him along. They ran together, the ship trembling beneath their feet, every step echoing with the threat of collapse. As they reached a wide chamber, the soldier stopped short. Through the curved glass above, he saw the hunter's ships unleashing beams of light that tore into the vessel's shields. The protective barrier flared, then dimmed, weaker with each strike. If the shield fell, they would be open, exposed, and destroyed. The alien soldiers began to chant, their voices rising together in strange harmony. Energy flared from their weapons, joining the ship's shield. It was a ritual of war, a song of survival. The girl squeezed his hand, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "Now, you see, why close," she whispered, her eyes fierce, together stronger. The soldier felt the weight of her words. It was not only her culture, not only tradition, it was survival written into their very way of living. And now, standing beside her with the hunters closing in, he finally understood. The closeness, the trust, the bond. Without it, they would all fall. With it, maybe, just maybe, they could endure. The chamber shook again, louder this time, and the world around him blurred. He tightened his grip on the glowing weapon, his heartbeat steadying. Whatever came through those walls, he would face it, not because he believed he was chosen, not because of fate, but because the alien girl at his side had given him something the battlefield had nearly destroyed, a reason to stand. The battle outside raged on, beams of light striking the ship's shields again and again. The soldier stood ready with the strange weapon in his hand, his heartbeat steady now, not because he was fearless, but because she was beside him. The alien girl's grip on his arm was firm, her green eyes glowing brighter in the chaos. He felt as though she drew strength from him, and at the same time poured her strength into him, binding them together in ways he did not yet understand. As the ship trembled, the tall alien elders entered the chamber, their robes shimmering with faint energy. The soldiers bowed to them, but when their eyes fell on the girl, they lowered their heads even further. The soldier noticed at once the way they treated her was not casual, not ordinary. Something about her made even the proud warriors step back in silence. One of the elders spoke, their voice low but carrying weight like thunder. The words were not human, but he could feel the meaning in the air. The girl turned to him, her face serious now. "They know," she whispered. "They know, Chosen." He frowned, gripping the weapon tighter. "Chosen for what?" he asked, his voice sharp, his patience thin. But she hesitated, her eyes falling to the floor, as if the truth was heavier than she could carry. Finally, she raised her head, her golden hair sliding back from her glowing skin. "Not only culture," she whispered slowly, "not only closeness." The elder stepped forward, placing a hand over his heart in a gesture of respect. Their voice filled the chamber, and though the soldier could not understand every word, the tone was clear. Reverence, recognition, destiny. The girl translated softly, her voice trembling. "They say you are bound to me by choice of spirit, by bloodline law." The soldier felt his chest tighten. "What bloodline?" he demanded, his voice rough. The girl took a deep breath, her green eyes never leaving his. "I'm not only one of them," she whispered. "I am heir." Her words cut through him like fire. He stared at her in disbelief, his mind spinning. "You're a queen," he said, though it sounded like a question. She shook her head lightly. "Not yet, but promised." The elders bowed deeper, confirming the truth. The alien girl was no ordinary companion, no simple survivor of culture. She was bound to rule, and by lying beside him, by sharing her life with him, she had marked him as part of that destiny. His breath came heavy, his hands shaking now. "You should have told me," he muttered, his voice low, almost breaking. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart. "If I tell you," she whispered, "you run." Her voice was filled with sorrow, with fear not of battle, but of losing him. "I need you here, not as soldier, as bond." The ship shook again, sparks raining down from the ceiling, a reminder that danger was still clawing at their door. But his mind was no longer only on the hunters. It was on the weight of her words, the truth pressing against him like a mountain. If he stayed, he was no longer just a survivor, no longer just a man lost in war. He would be bound to a people he did not know, a queen he could not understand, and a destiny that might crush him. The elders raised their voices again, chanting words that filled the air with power. The girl translated through trembling lips. "They say, if you stand with me now, you're no longer only human. You're a bridge, you're a shield, you are mine." The soldier's throat tightened, his mind screaming for escape, yet his heart refusing to move. He looked into her eyes, saw the fire of her lineage, the burden of her crown, and the quiet plea hidden beneath it all. She was strong, but she was also alone, and for reasons he could not explain, he could not abandon her. He lifted the glowing weapon in his hand, his voice steady. "Then let's survive this first," he said, his tone sharp but resolved. The girl's smile was faint, but her eyes softened, filled with relief. Together, they turned toward the trembling door, where shadows gathered and the sound of hunters grew louder. The soldier knew he was no longer just protecting himself. He was protecting her, her people, and the bond that had already changed his life forever. And though fear lingered in his chest, a new fire began to burn within it. For the first time in years, he was not only fighting to survive, he was fighting for someone else, someone who had chosen him before he could even understand why. The soldier stood in the chamber, the glowing weapon heavy in his grip. The ship still shook under the hunter's attack, but his mind was far louder than the noise outside. He had learned the truth. The alien girl beside him was no ordinary companion, no lost traveler. She was heir to a throne, a queen not yet crowned, and by sharing her bed, by calling it cultural, she had bound him to her fate. He paced back and forth, his boots striking the metallic floor, his chest tight with anger and confusion. "You should have told me," he said again, his voice sharp. She stood silent, her hands folded in front of her, her emerald eyes never leaving him. Finally, she spoke softly, almost like a plea. "If I tell you, you run, and if you run, I break." Her words struck deep, but his heart still battled. He thought of Earth, of his people, of the human flag stitched to his old uniform. If he accepted her bond, if he stayed by her side, he might never see home again, and worse, humanity might see him as a traitor, bound to alien royalty instead of his own. The ship lurched again, sparks falling from the ceiling. Alarm screamed in the alien tongue, calling all to defense. Yet even with danger at the door, his greatest battle was inside himself. The alien girl stepped closer, her hand reaching for his. "You fight for them," she whispered, "but you live for me." He pulled his hand back, his voice breaking. "I swore an oath," he muttered, "to protect my people, not to be some alien king, not to be dragged into a war that isn't mine." Her face softened with sorrow, but not surprise. She had expected this fight, expected his human heart to resist. Still, her voice carried strength. "You swore to protect life. I am life, my people are life. Do you turn from that?" Before he could answer, the chamber door hissed open. Human soldiers stormed in, armored and armed, their rifles raised. For the first time since he awoke on this alien ship, he saw the familiar insignia of Earth. Relief and dread collided in his chest. The captain stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Soldier, step away from her. You're coming with us. You've been compromised." The soldier froze, the words echoing inside him like gunfire. Compromised. That was what they saw him as. Not a survivor, not a bridge, only a man corrupted by alien hands. The alien girl moved instantly, stepping in front of him, her body a shield. Her voice rang out, fierce and unyielding. "He is mine," she declared in her tongue, her words carrying weight that even the humans seemed to feel. The human captain raised his rifle higher, his eyes narrowing. "She's manipulating you," he spat. "She's their royalty, their weapon. If you stay with her, you become the enemy." The soldier's grip tightened on the alien weapon, his heart pounding. He looked at the girl, her eyes pleading silently, begging him not to leave. He looked at the humans, his own kind, their rifles steady, their trust already broken. He stood at the edge of a choice that would shape the rest of his life. If he walked with the humans, he could return to Earth, return to the familiar. But he would abandon her and everything she had given him. If he stayed with her, he would be marked forever, not as a hero of Earth, but as the alien queen's chosen protector. Either way, there was no return to who he had been. The girl stepped closer, her voice trembling now. "I ask not as queen," she whispered. "I ask as me, the one who held you, the one who healed you, the one who will never leave you alone." The soldier felt his chest burn, the war inside him reaching its peak. One side called him traitor, the other called him chosen. And he realized at last, no oath, no uniform, no culture could make this decision for him. It was his alone. He raised the weapon, his voice steady as steel. "I'm done running," he said, his eyes locked on hers. The human soldiers tensed, their rifles ready. The alien elders bowed their heads, waiting. The girl's eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of hope. The soldier had made his choice, and in that moment, The war outside became only an echo compared to the storm he had calmed inside his own heart. The chamber was filled with tension so sharp it felt like a blade pressed against the soldier's throat. On one side stood the humans, rifles raised, their voices sharp with commands. On the other stood the alien elders, their glowing eyes steady, their respect already given. And between them, the alien girl stood close to him, her hand trembling as it clutched his sleeve, her green eyes filled with both fear and hope. The soldier lifted the glowing alien weapon higher, the hum of its energy filling the silence. His breath came slow and steady, his heart beating like a drum. For the first time in years, he was not a pawn, not a survivor of orders, but a man standing at the edge of his own destiny. The human captain shouted again, "Step away from her, soldier. This is your last chance." The alien elders responded with a low chant, their voices heavy with expectation, and the girl whispered softly, only for him, "Together." He looked at the faces before him, his own people, strangers now with suspicion in their eyes, and her people, tall and graceful, waiting for him to claim or reject the bond she had already made. All of them demanded a choice, but none of them knew what burned in his chest. He had been broken on battlefields, scarred by fire and blood, and yet she had given him something his own kind had failed to restore. Trust, warmth, the simple reminder that he was not alone. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "No," he said firmly, "I will not abandon her." The humans stiffened, their rifles clicking as they prepared to fire. The alien girl's eyes widened, tears slipping down her cheeks, but her smile broke through them like light. The elders bowed lower, as if his words were sacred. He raised his voice louder so both sides could hear. "I am human," he declared, "but humanity is not fear. Humanity is not turning from trust. Humanity is not leaving someone who gave me life when I thought I had none." His words echoed, fierce and unshaken. "She calls it cultural, but I call it human," he said, "because no matter the world, no matter the bloodline, standing beside someone who trusts you is what makes us alive." The humans faltered, their captain scowling. "You're making a mistake," the captain growled. "You're throwing away your world for her." The soldier shook his head, his grip on the weapon firm. "No," he answered. "I'm showing both our worlds what it means to be stronger together." The alien girl stepped closer, her body pressing lightly against his arm, her voice trembling with pride. "You speak as king," she whispered. He turned to her, his voice softer now, but steady. "No, I speak as human." The chamber shook again as the hunters' ships struck harder, forcing both humans and aliens to brace. The enemy outside did not care for crowns or cultures, only destruction. And in that moment, the soldier saw the truth clearer than ever. If humanity and her people kept fighting apart, both would fall. But if they stood as one, maybe they could survive. He raised the weapon high, the glow spreading like fire through the chamber. "Then hear me," he shouted, his voice carrying beyond walls, beyond species. "I choose her. I choose life. I choose trust." His words were raw, simple, but they struck harder than any weapon. For both sides knew the truth of them. Even the humans lowered their rifles slightly, uncertainty cracking their discipline. The alien elders lifted their hands, their voices rising in a chant of unity. The girl placed her forehead against his, whispering the same word she had spoken since the first night. Cultural, but this time he understood. It no longer meant only tradition. It no longer meant only closeness. It meant bond. It meant trust. It meant two souls standing against the void together. The hunter's fire roared louder outside, the ship groaning under the assault. But inside, a decision had been made, and its power was greater than fear. The soldier tightened his grip on the weapon, the girl's hand locked with his. Whatever came next, he would face it not as a broken man, not as a lone soldier, but as part of something greater. Humanity's word was spoken, and it was not war, it was not fear. It was unity,